This is the Russian Dynamite, Masha Slamovich.
Becca here.
This is not America's Sweetheart, Davian.
It's Billy Starks. And
the super fly guy, Trayvon Jordan.
This is the fly side flyer, Jalen Brandon.
Hardcore Princess, Jules Malone.
Hi there, this is the Bubblegum Princess, Alexia Nicole.
This is the Brazilian Wonder Woman, Christy Jane.
This is the baddest black belt, Chennai Kai.
This is Kid Bandit.
The smash hit Joel Bateman.
This is Robin Renegade.
Cody Hawk.
Brutal Bob Evans. And you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment, one of my favorite podcasts in the whole wide world.
Hey, this is the Mighty Cadman, and you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment.
Hello, and welcome to the show with Wrestling with Entertainment, the only audio experience on the web today, the trusted choice for interviewing all your favorite wrestlers every Tuesday and Wednesday on YouTube and Castbox, sponsored by Rogue Energy and Player One Coffee. I'm, of course, your host, James J. And it's a great day for wrestling, because we are wrestling with the Mighty Cadman.
Hey James, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you today?
I'm pretty good, thank you. Thanks for asking. I'm up in Canada, in Toronto, so it's a little bit colder than where you are probably, but I'm happy to be here, and thanks for having me on.
Well, I mean, I live in Southern California, so my definition of cold is wearing socks with my sandals.
Yeah. It's probably right now. It's probably 25 degrees, so it's pretty chilly.
Well, according to my laptop right now, it's 65 degrees.
Yeah, so you got a few degrees on me.
Yes. But where will you be heating up the ring event-wise next?
I'm going to be wrestling next at Junction City Wrestling. To be very honest, I'm pretty selective now with my bookings. I'm a little bit older. I had a pretty good run with everything that I did. We can get into later, but yeah, I'm pretty selective with my bookings. I like to do shows where I'm friends with the guys, shows that I can have fun on. I'm not going to be world champion anytime soon. Let's just put it that way. So I'm happy with where I'm at. But yeah, my bookings are far and few between. Let's just say, but I'm still enjoying it every single time that I do it.
And that's the whole point, is enjoying yourself, right?
Yeah. I love it when I do it, but I have a family now, so I have a little girl. So it's a bit harder to get away. So like I said, I keep them close to home, and I think one of the main shows I do is probably 1.5 miles from my house. So I keep that commute time pretty low.
Considering that shows in Canada could range anywhere from 12 to 19 hours to get from one show to the next, I kind of feel like you have it easy right now.
Yeah, exactly. Back in my heyday, a couple of years ago, I was doing, on average, I'll be doing 4-hour drives most weekends at least, one way. So you do that 4-hour drive, and then you do the show. Sometimes you do a lunchtime show in the so you do sort of a 1-2 o'clock show on a Saturday afternoon or a Sunday afternoon, and then you would make that town that was 2-3 hours away. So those days were pretty hectic. They were long travel days. Probably realistically, when you think about it, you're probably in the ring for a total 2 matches. You probably, and because I'm bigger as well. My matches were never 25-30 minutes long, because I was predominantly 2 times the size of the guy that I was wrestling. So I was probably in the ring for a total of 15 minutes out of 16 hours. So I was definitely in it. I was definitely in it for the love of it, not for the actual output of time in the ring.
And what was the date of your next event you mentioned?
The next event that I have planned, I've got a couple shows pending. Haven't locked them away, but I know there's one for sure in. I think it's in. I'd have to double check, but I think it's in April. I want to say March, April.
Okay.
Like the 23rd of one of those months. So, forgive me. I'm pretty unprepared, but I generally, as you probably know, like through booking this podcast, I generally forget stuff, and I have it in my calendar, but I generally don't check it until the day before. So I keep things very casual. I don't like overwhelming myself. I made that mistake earlier on in my career when I was doing 3, 4, 5 shows a week, and I was stressing about them weeks in advance. And,
right.
I've foregone that, and I just I'll turn up, and I'm just going to trust that it's going to be good.
And I trust that you can tell us where we can find you on social media and your merchandise.
Yeah, so I don't necessarily have a merchandise store at the minute, but my social media is at the Mighty Cadman on Instagram. I'm also at the Mighty Instagram, at the Mighty Cadman on Twitter as well, or X, whatever you want to call it. I also have a Facebook page, which is linked to the Instagram. So if you follow me on Instagram, you're going to get the same content on Instagram, on Facebook. So yeah, at the Mighty Cadman is my page.
All right. And you don't even have to go looking for it. All of the links to all his social media will be in the description of the video below, but on YouTube and Castbox. Alright, I mean, you mentioned that you're currently in Canada, but you're originally from Australia.
That's right, yeah.
I'm assuming you didn't travel to Canada because of the wrestling.
I did.
Oh, you did, okay.
I did, yeah. So, well, sort of. So my story was, if you want me to go into my, the whole story of how I got into wrestling, I can.
Hey, it's your story. If you want to share it, I'm more than happy to listen.
Yeah, sure. So I'm from a town called Bendigo in Australia. Bendigo is a country regional town. So wrestling is not a thing, where I'm from. There's probably 100,000 people, but if you drive 10 minutes anywhere, it's just farmland. So it's just cattle, hay. So it's very rural where I'm from. So all my life I grew up wanting to wrestle, but I also was sort of picky with the way I did things. I didn't, and no offense to anyone else that ever did this way, but I never wanted to just get trained by some guy I didn't know. And I'm sure there's some great trainers out there that just and as well, I need to clarify, because of where I was from, we didn't have indies. There was no indies in my town.
Right.
There was no indies within 2 hours of my house. So when I was a kid, I wasn't going to indies or anything like that. The only thing I ever knew was wrestling, was WWE. Being in Australia as well, I grew up during sort of the tail end of the Attitude Era. So wrestling was very hot, but the only thing I saw was WWE, WWF. So we didn't get the whole WCW thing, but so I loved wrestling. My dad hated it. He was into martial arts. He's you cannot. He forbid it. Wrestling was forbidden in the house. He was into martial arts. He's all that's fake. You can't watch that. You're not allowed to watch it. But so every single time Dad left the room, I'll just put wrestling on. So I'd be watching wrestling. So I was a closet wrestling fan to my family and my friends. So every time Dad left the room, I'd watch wrestling, and then slowly, over time, Dad would come back into the room, and he's I was watching wrestling, so turn that off. So then, the week would go by, another week, he's turn that off. But then, slowly but surely, he, all of a sudden, I'm looking, and then Dad would be telling me about these storylines that was going on the TV. So Dad ended up getting fully invested and liking it probably more than I did. But yeah, so I was from this town that didn't have wrestling. No one that probably 1 or 2 people that I knew liked wrestling, but they sort of grew out of it. I feel like most people who aren't idiots, they sort of grow up a little bit, and they grow out of wrestling, but I never did. And once I hit so most of the 2 or 3 friends that I knew that liked wrestling, they grew out of it at like 14 or 15. But once I hit like 14, 15, that's when I became like obsessed with it. Like I would watch how guys moved. I was sort of like, I'd sort of read their body. And admittedly, I didn't know. Like Triple H was my favorite wrestler, and because at the time, the evolution was huge. The stable evolution was huge. So for some reason, I didn't know why, but for some reason, Triple H was always my favorite. But I didn't know why. And as I got into the business, I figured out why he was my favorite. But yeah, so he was my favorite growing up. And like I said, when I was like 14, 15, my friends sort of grew out of it, but I just got more invested into it and loved it. So I was always watching wrestling, and then I sort of gave up on the idea. But I got to 20, and I had given up. I was 21, and I'd given up on the idea of ever wrestling, just because of where I was from. So, and then one day, like I was driving in my car, and I heard an ad on the radio saying there was some like little wrestling show going to like, it was literally a farm, and they were doing this show like on this farm because they were filming a movie, like a bootleg, like sort of like a really low budget movie. And like Chris Masters was on it, Carlito was on it, Orlando Jordan, a few other people were on it, and I'm like, this is my chance. And I had been to a couple like WWE like house shows in Melbourne, in Australia, but I thought like this is my chance that I could actually like meet these people. And like I was like sold, like this is the greatest thing ever. And so we went to the show, and my only dream ever as a kid growing up was like to touch a wrestling ring. So this first night of the show that came to town, I went to this little farm, and there's this wrestling ring in this field. It was like full of like wheat and corn, and there's this wrestling ring. And like this is like I thought it was this was my WrestleMania. Like I'm just like this is awesome. Like I was loving it. So I was touching the ring. I sat on the edge of the ring. Like I thought it was so cool. Like this is the coolest thing like ever. And anyway, Orlando Jordan came out from the back, and he was just like talking to a few fans. And say what you will about Orlando Jordan, he has some indiscrepancies to say the least, like online. But he came out and he said, he goes, yeah, hey, look, you're a big guy. Like I'm 6'5". At the time, I was probably like 3'10". And he goes, hey, you're a pretty big guy, and I've just moved to Melbourne, and I'm actually starting a wrestling school. Like, I think you should come. And I'm like, okay, like, sure, whatever. Once again, like, I'm a small town. Like, I have no clue, like, what's going on or anything like that. So for about 4 or 5 weeks, I, like, thought about it. Like, every day I thought about it. Like, it was the only thing I thought about. And for me to get to where the school was, it was like 2.5 hours through the city, like from where I was from in like rural Victoria, Australia, to drive to the city to get to where the training was, the wrestling ring. So after 4 or 5 weeks, I'm just like, whatever, like I'm gonna do it. I'll give it a shot. And I did it. So I went down, and then I was working a full-time job at a factory. I was making windows, and I went down and I started training, and training was like 2-3 hours, 3 nights a week, and I would just get brutalized. I had the holy hell beat out of me, like for 3 nights a week, for 2 or 3 hours, and like I was beaten up. I was black and blue from the ropes, like just taking bumps and everything like that. And so I'd get home at 1, 2 in the morning, and then 7 a.m. I'd be at work. And it was crazy. I couldn't believe I was doing it. And so you got to remember, my only goal ever was to touch a wrestling ring. So all of a sudden, like I've blown every single. I remember the first time I walked in the ring. So for anyone who's ever walked in a ring, like there's kind of like it's not like a bounce, like a trampoline type thing, but like the ring gives because the bumps hurt. So there's got to be a little bit of give in the ring, or else the wrestlers die.
Right.
Like it feels terrible. It feels terrible anyway. Like with the ring giving a little bit. So I remember walking the ring, and like I thought I was going to fall over. Like I couldn't believe like how the ring moved the way it moved. So the first night of training, I was walking the ring, and I thought I was going to fall over. I'm like, this is so embarrassing. Like I can't even walk in the ring. But anyway, yeah. So I started training. I thought like this is the greatest thing that I could ever do, and that was it. Like if the only thing I ever did was just like walk, like just do training and like take bumps and hit the ropes and everything. Like I thought that was it. Like this is the best thing ever. And 3 months in, Orlando calls me over and he says, "Yeah, we have a show in 3 weeks time." So this was probably at the 3-month mark. He says, we have a show in 3 weeks time. We want you to come and just like do security, like stand on the door, take tickets, and that type of thing. So I'm like, yeah, cool, no worries. So I went down, and this town's called Ballarat. So it was 2 hours from my house, and I remember it was cold. So like I'd never, like, Canadian winters are very different, obviously. Like it's very cold, but like Ballarat is like the Canada of Australia. So it was freezing cold. Like it was nearly snowing, and so we're in this warehouse or like high school, like not a high school gym, but it was like a rec center. It was a rec center, something like a YMCA. And so I'm taking tickets and like, sorry, I'm preparing to take tickets, and the doors are about to open in 10 minutes. Orlando calls me over and he goes, "Hey, you're actually going to be in the show." And I'm like, "What?" So I have no clue. I'm like, "No way, like I'm not in the show." And he says, "Yeah, you're in the show." And they told me what I had to do. Like basically it was going to be a 2-minute squash match. So I was going to get beaten up for a minute and a half, and then I was going to blow a comeback, and then I was going to hit a choke slam on a guy and call it a day. And first of all, he goes, "The finish is choke slam." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." And then I said to him, like, "How do you do a choke slam?" And he said, "Yeah, you'll figure it out." So yeah, I was in the ring, and all of a sudden, I told my friends, and all my friends came, and there was probably like 50 of my friends in the crowd, and I was just getting beaten up. This guy was like clubbing me to death. He had a kendo stick. He was hitting me with a kendo stick. It was probably like an initiation into the business, just like getting the hell beat out of me. But yeah, so like all of a sudden the guy says, "Let's go home." And I start fighting back, and all of a sudden I pick him up and then into a choke slam. And the choke slam was going perfectly, and then obviously, once again, I was 6'5", 310. I have no idea of like how strong I actually am. So the choke slam was going perfectly, and all of a sudden, like I actually like throw him to the mat like as hard as I can, and then I realize after the fact you're not meant to do that. So this guy lands so high on his neck and shoulders, I nearly kill him. But I got out of that match, and like I nearly cried after that. Like this is the coolest thing ever. And then fast forward, like so once again, like now all of a sudden, like I'm on the indie scene. I started getting bookings like all over like Melbourne. So I was wrestling for like 4 or 5 different promotions in the city. And once again, I don't live near any of these shows. So like I was training during the week, so like 2.5 hours, depending on traffic, 3 hours to get to the training, going back to work. But then I was also like started doing all the shows, which once again they're all 2.5 hours away. So like all of a sudden I'm doing 10 hours of driving one way. So I'm doing 20 hours of driving a week just to do these shows. And I'm like, this is the greatest ever. Like if this was it, like I was happy. And then I was at work one day and I get an email, and it's from the WWE. And now I'm at like the 2 or 3 year mark, and I get the email from the WWE saying, "We're coming to Melbourne and there's a tryout. We want you to be involved." So I was at work, and like I lost it. Like this is the coolest thing ever. Like WWE are emailing me, and I go to Market Court Arena. So it's one of the tennis arenas in the city in Melbourne. And people are in that tryout. There was Duke Hudson was there.
Yep.
Duke Hudson. There was Bronson Reed, and the other one was Rhea Ripley. So I'd done a few shows with Rhea, and Rhea's awesome. Like she's so nice. But it was just so amazing to see all this shit. I'm just like, I'm a nobody. I'm standing, all of a sudden, I'm in the ring. I'm in a WWE ring in a 20,000 seat stadium, just looking at all these WWE logos. And like Kenyon Seaman at the time, he was the head of talent relations, but he's there like filming everything on his phone, sending it back to Vince. And I'm just, once again, like, I'm so clueless all this. I'm like, this is unbelievable. Like, you got to remember back to my goal of, like, my only goal was to ever touch a wrestling ring. And now I'm in a WWE ring 3 years later. So up until that point, I always thought, like, I'd just, do these local shows and just having fun. But then I did that tryout, and then that was where I really started thinking, like, I could actually make something of this and, like, start doing things. So that's when I made the decision to, like, take it very serious. And, like, I got in shape. Like, I probably lost like 30, 40, 40, 50 pounds actually. Got in really good shape. And made the decision to move to Canada. I wanted to move to the US, but it was harder to move to the US, so I went to Canada. And the reason why I went to Toronto, where I live now, is because I did a show with Santino Marella. And then Santino Marella said to me, he goes, "Yeah, you're a big guy. I have a wrestling school." So I made the decision to pack up and move to Toronto, and went to Santino's wrestling school. And this is the point where I was taking it very serious. And I trained there for about a year, and then once again Santino put in a good word for me, and then WWE called and they flew me to Tampa. So I went to the PC, and now I'm doing tryouts with elite athletes, like Olympians. Like, I tried out with Jade Cargill. I tried out with there was a couple others. There was the acrobatic guy, Reggie. Was that his name? In WWE?
Yes, Reggie. Yes.
Reggie. So I tried out with him, and then there was a couple other people that ended up getting signed. EJ Nduka, I think his name was. He ended up getting signed. He's with MLW now. But they did the bag drill. And then, for those who don't know what the bag drill is, basically it's like they put a boxing bag in the middle of the ring. And now the ring is 20 feet wide. So they put a boxing bag down in the middle of the ring. And you hit the ropes. You have 2 minutes. So they put the boxing bag down in the middle of the ring, 2 minutes, and they blow the whistle and hit the ropes. You basically do a burpee. So you drop down, do a burpee over the bag, and then you do another burpee next to the other side of the bag, hit the ropes, burpee, drop, jump up, burpee, hit the ropes. So you do that for 2 minutes straight. Now there is 6 rings, so I had to do it in 3 of them. So you have to do this for 6 minutes. And then I was last in the group, and there was Nicky Rod was another guy. So Nicky Rod is a world champion, like a legitimate world champion, like jiu-jitsu fighter. So I'm looking at Nicky Rod, and Nicky Rod is like power vomiting out the door. Like, he's like fountaining vomit out the door because, like, it was so hard. I'm just like, oh my God, like, I'm gonna die. Like, my roommate was an NFL player, and he was dying. I'm just like, I am no chance of doing this. And I did the first ring, it was okay. Like, I was on pace. Everyone did the second ring, like, I was like on pace or like one below, and then I got to the third ring, and I was like gassed. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move, and I hit that third ring, and this is where I also learned, like, your body can do some crazy things that your mind says you can't. I was on that third ring, and excuse me, my body just gave up. Like, I couldn't physically move anymore, and I'll never forget it. Terry Taylor, he's in the ring with me, and he's just screaming at me, telling me to get up. And then all of a sudden, like, I didn't do it. Like, I swear to God, I did not get up. But, like, for somehow I stood up, and I did it, and I did another few reps. And, like, I'll never forget, I guess he's a heavy smoker, but, like, all I remember is, like, the smell of coffee and, like, cigarettes on his breath when he was screaming at me. But, like, I ended up doing these reps, and like, it was like the hardest thing that I've ever done. But, like, I just couldn't believe that I was in that situation, right? So it was like, I was flabbergasted, like, put it that way. Like, I just couldn't believe that I was in that situation, having Terry Taylor. William Regal was there, Mark Henry, like, everyone. They're all talking to me and everything like that. So nothing came of that. And once again, I just went back doing my thing, doing indies and everything like that. And they called again. WWE called again. This time, I told them that I was a dual citizen. So I'm a dual citizen of the UK. So this is when NXT UK was really getting hot. So they flew me to London. So I went to London, did the tryout there, went through it. I did really well. Like, people there were like, a few of the guys, Pretty Deadly, they ended up getting hired out of it. So, and like William Regal, like, it's very interesting as well. So when you do these tryouts, so like the Florida tryouts are very, very serious. No one jokes around. Like William Regal is the best example of it. It's like, we were doing the tryout in Florida, and he was business, like strictly business. No joking, no smiling. He would hardly talk to us, and not because he was being rude or anything like that, but it's like he was just like, he's like, I'm the coach, you're like the guys trying to get in. So it was just strictly business. But when I went to London, we're at the hotel and we're staying with it, bro. Like, they're all staying at the same place with us, because then all of them live in Florida, remember? So we get to the performance center in London, and then all of a sudden, like, we're in the bar drinking with William Regal, and he's just telling stories. So like it was the London tryout was so much more fun, just because it was so much more relaxed. In terms of like the out of the ring stuff, but in the ring stuff was brutal, like worse. It was worse than Florida. Like, they just try to break you and kill you. So I did all the exact same stuff, cut a promo and all that sort of stuff, and we did matches and everything. Like, did really well, and the coaches there gave me some good praise. And then basically they said, look, we don't have anything for you right now, but like, keep doing what you're doing. And then we'll call. And then, so now all of a sudden, I'm actually emailing, after this tryout, I started emailing WWE. Like, they were emailing me like every week, every 2 weeks about a job. So I'm like, my only goal was like to touch a ring, remember? And now I'm emailing the WWE about getting employed. And then all of a sudden, COVID came. So COVID came and they took absolutely everything away from me. They stopped hiring. And it just became difficult for me after that to get back into it, just because I went so hard. Like I said, like, I'm no elite athlete. Like, I'm not like an NFL player or anything like that. I'm not a pro baseball player or a bodybuilder. I'm just a guy who really likes wrestling. So I lost a lot of my willpower, if I'm being very honest, after COVID came, because I didn't want to have to do, for those who've never been involved in wrestling, and this is just my personal experience, 90% of the promoters you deal with are the worst. Like, they think they're Vince. So it was insane. So it was like, the thought of me doing what I did to get to the point where I was at again was just like, I couldn't do it. So, and I also had a daughter at that. So my daughter was born in 21. It just became hard for me to like get that willpower to do it again. But I had a very, very, very good run, better than most. I'm proud of everything that I ever achieved. I loved it. I still love it. I love talking about it. Like, doing this podcast, like, it's brought back great memories of what I did. But I just, like I said, I just lost that willpower of willing to grind for like little to no money, and just. It's hard. It's a hard business to break into, and now as well. You look at the hires. Now. They hired Jade Cargill. Oh, Jade Cargill's another one I did a tryout with. So like, I remember doing that tryout with Jade Cargill in Florida, and I've never seen a person with like 2-inch thick abs. Like her abs, like they were so deep. I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, what am I meant to do? So like, they're the hires that they were looking for at the time. And like I said, I'm just a guy who likes wrestling. So Like I said, I was in shape, but like I wasn't like Jade Cargill shape or like a Braun Strowman.
I don't think
I'm
any
pretty
of us
big.
could be Jade Cargill shape at this point.
No, I know, and like I'm a big guy, but I'm not like Braun Strowman big, you know. Like I'm bigger than average, but like I'm not a Braun Strowman. So, yeah, the hiring process now, you look at it, it's just like they want Olympians, and I'm not an Olympian, so I'm very satisfied with what I achieved. I achieved everything but and more than what I set out to do. My only goal was to touch a ring. Like now I'm telling a story in a podcast about 3 tryouts,
Right.
10-year career. So like I've blown that out of the water. But as you obviously go along with anything, like whether it's like work, personal, gym, anything like that, it's like your goals change along the way. So my goals changed a lot from when I started, and I achieved everything except for the one thing of getting a contract. I was pretty close, I feel. I got some great contacts. Like I'm friends with Tommy Dreamer and a few other guys. So I did good. I did very good, but I didn't quite make it, which is when I think about it, it's kind of devastating. But I always try to revert myself back to the initial goal of like wanting to touch a ring. I did that and more.
I mean, yeah, I kind of understand, like, almost getting to the goalpost, but, you know, I'm a big believer in there's a reason for everything. And, you know, obviously COVID happened, and then, you know, your daughter was born 2 years after that. So, and obviously priorities changed after that time. So if you would have got signed by WWE, you know, who knows where you could have been as of right now. You know what I mean?
No, and like reflecting on that, like to get it, like I'm very honest about this stuff, and I'll get into it with you. But it's like I was so angry when it ended. Like I was devastated. Like I hated wrestling. Like I hated the business. Like during COVID, like, I couldn't stand it. And I actually went, because I was just so angry about everything. So I actually went to a counselor about this, and I explained that whole situation that I told you, and he said, "What you're going through is like you're mourning a loss. It's like someone has died, someone has passed away. It's like the love of your life has passed away, and you are like getting over this grief of this thing being gone. Because like I said, like it wasn't my choice.
Right.
It wasn't my choice to stop. Obviously, COVID sort of ruined a lot of people's lives, COVID didn't ruin my life. COVID didn't ruin my life. Like my daughter came from that. It changed my life, but it's like because I wasn't willing and I wasn't ready to leave. That the counselor though he said actually is like like you're going through a death. It's like a death in the family, and you're trying to like wrap your head around it and like try to process this. And your like process is like anger towards wrestling. So it was interesting going through that as well. But yeah, as you said, everything happens for a reason. I definitely agree, especially on this front, is because if COVID didn't happen, I wouldn't have my daughter. If I did, I would be, like to quote Dominic Mysterio, I'd be a deadbeat dad. Just like hitting the towns and, you know, selling merch at the merch table, or like if maybe I would have got signed, I don't know. But my life would be different if I had continued the way I was going, or if I had picked it back up, and I wouldn't have my daughter for sure. And who knows, like Chelsea, my partner, like who knows if I was still with her, like she probably would have got sick of me doing this stuff. So like these stories that you hear online from like the big name wrestlers like The Undertaker and all that, and like they've gone through 3 divorces, and like it's serious, like it's true. It's even at my level, like as high as I got, and it's hard. It's hard on relationships, and it's because it's every weekend. For me, it was like every weekend. Like it was Friday, Saturday, Sunday. In the summertime, because in Canada, because the summer's so short in Canada, from June until September, there is a festival every night. It's like Margarita Fest, Taco Fest, Rib Fest, like every sort of festival you can think of. And it's every night of the week. And every night of the week, they need entertainment. So wrestling companies like promote, like sell, like bought shows. So there's a wrestling ring at all these venues, at all these like festivals. And this is when I was wrestling like 5 nights a week. I was doing these festivals, and I would have kept doing it if all this stuff didn't happen, like my daughter and that. So I would have kept doing that, and it would have been difficult because it's like the way I describe it is wrestling is the best worst thing that could ever happen to me. It was.
Yes.
I learned so much from wrestling, even in my current real life. Like, I know how to talk to people because of wrestling, because I was cutting promos, like talking trash in the microphone. I know how to read body language because of wrestling. Like all these like little things that you think is very insignificant, I learned from wrestling. So while I have a love-hate relationship with the business, I credit it so much to everything that I've ever achieved. I'm actually going to say everything that I've ever achieved, I had no confidence in myself. So once again, for those who don't know, 99.9% of wrestlers work dead-end jobs to support their wrestling habit.
Right.
And my whole life is what I did. So I just worked these dead-end jobs that were going nowhere, purely so I could wrestle on the weekends. And I made enough money to pay rent and, keep the lights on. But the only reason I was doing these jobs, I hated them, but the only reason I was doing them was so I could wrestle. But then in that time that I was wrestling, it was sort of like an apprenticeship of how to be an actual adult and like how to be an actual functioning person of like the corporate world. And for a wrestler, like if you're a wrestler listening, get into sales because that's what we do as wrestlers. That's what we do. We're selling. Like you're selling. That's literally, you take a punch, let's sell.
Right.
So I stumbled into sales. Like my neighbor, once again, I was doing a dead-end job, and my neighbor was harassing me because I had construction experience, and he would do laundry downstairs, and every week he would like, hey, do you know anyone with construction experience? And I didn't like the guy. He was annoying, like the annoying upstairs neighbor. So every week I was like, no, I don't know anyone. No, I don't know anyone. Me with like 8 years experience in construction. And I'm like, every week, for like 10 weeks, he would ask, like 10, 12 weeks, he asked, like, do you know anyone with construction experience? Because he has his job. So eventually I'm like, yeah, I've got this experience. Yes, I do have experience. What do you want? And then he told me about this job. It was like installing cameras on these job sites, and maintaining them and all that sort of stuff. Because the winter damages the cameras, so you got to go through and like replace them all. And then I got hired for this job, like installing cameras, and then overnight they said congratulations, like day one, like, you've been promoted to what's called customer success. Is basically my now job is to manage customers, be a project manager, and manage their expectations and like make sure they're happy and all this sort of stuff. And I had no idea. Like I when they said I was now in customer success, I had to go home and Google what customer success meant. Customer success meant. And then that's how my whole like actual like career like outside of wrestling started, was because I had this job, and I flourished in that job because I was able to talk to people, I was able to connect with them, and like, I could tell when someone was like lying to me or like not telling the truth by their body language. And like without any like university experience in any of these fields, I ended up like doing very well, and it was because of wrestling. So I credit everything to wrestling. Like I said, it was the greatest worst thing that could ever happen to me, because you sacrifice so much for nothing when you're in wrestling, and then one day you feel like you've made it. Like I never felt like I made it, but like it's just the way it is. It's just wrestling is great. It's taught me so much. So I'll never be embarrassed about like now I'm in the corporate world now. I'm in sales, like I said. So it's the easiest icebreaker. This is like, so you meet someone new, so like, tell me about yourself. Like, I'm a pro wrestler. And everyone just like, whoa. So I tell some funny like road stories, and like you're off to the races. Like everyone thinks it's hilarious. So it's so easy, and it just breaks the ice, and like you can make everyone really comfortable, like just talking to you, just from this wrestling experience. But yeah, it's great. I can't thank the wrestling business enough for what I achieved.
No, you mentioned, at the start of all of this, Orlando Jordan was your first trainer. And, obviously Orlando Jordan, former United States champion, WWE alumni. You did actually get in the ring with him as well, one-on-one. What was that experience like, going from, training to actually competing against Orlando?
Yeah, that was great. That was so when you he literally taught me how to walk in a wrestling ring. So when I found out I was wrestling, I was so excited that I was wrestling him, and I totally forgot that I did. So until you brought it up, I actually forgot that I wrestled him. But it was so cool because it was like the level of, so Orlando trained me, and then the school sort of closed, or like he got married, and he stopped teaching for a while, and we sort of, in the wrestling business, like you just part ways, and you don't talk to someone for like 2 or 3 years, then all of a sudden you're back together again, and it's just like nothing ever happened. So he trained me, and we had that probably like 2-year break, and then I get the message saying, yeah, you're working in Orlando. I'm like, oh, awesome. And like our relationship totally changed by that point. It was like he went from like the trainer, he was still my trainer for sure, but like it went from he was my trainer teaching me to he was my peer, like working with me. So it was a very unique experience, because like it's like cool, like I'm working with the United States champion, and he was a freak athlete. Like he was crazy. And yeah, like so then all of a sudden we're in the back and we're going over the match, and we went over probably like 2 or 3 things, and we had a 15-minute match, and out of the 15-minute match we probably planned like 2 minutes of it, and the rest of it was just all called in the ring. And like going through that process of like actually calling stuff in the ring, because he trusted me, like he'd seen my work, he'd seen how I'd grown, and like seen how I developed as a wrestler, and he trusted me in that sense. That he knew he didn't have to baby me and like carry the match for me. Like, yeah, I'm guaranteeing you he carried the match, like
Right.
but like he didn't have to, like it wasn't like so obvious, it wasn't like, oh my god, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. So that's why it was really cool. Like it was very satisfying. I've had a couple experiences like that. So Orlando trained me, and then Ali Baez, he was from OVW. He was my next trainer. He was so good. He was probably the greatest trainer I've ever had. He was the greatest trainer in Australia by a long way, by miles. He was trained by Rip Rogers out of OVW. So this is a very weird story. So I was trained by Orlando, and then I was trained by Ali, and Ali was trained by Rip, and then I went to Canada, and then I was trained by Santino, who was also trained by Rip, and then Rip came to Canada, and he trained me. So then I was trained by Rip, and then he trained Santino, who trained me, and then he trained Ali, who trained me. So like it was so cool. And then like I said, the Orlando thing was awesome because like he trusted me. He gave me a ton of stuff he didn't have to give me, and he let me sort of do what I had to do. But then I started working with Ali, and Ali strictly calls it. Like he doesn't, like he'll plan the finish, he might plan like the heat, but he doesn't plan anything else. And that's how I love to work. That's work. Like when you're working is like when you don't plan anything. Now, I know when you're working on TV, it's totally different because they have to time cues and everything like that. So, like, it's a totally different thing. But when it's not on TV, you have the license to do whatever you want. And I feel like that's the art that's missing. Like, even on the indies now, it's like guys like will come up to me and say, you know, what do you want to do? And like, to be very honest, I don't want to do anything. It's like, let's just feel it out. Let's just go with it, and we'll just call it in the ring. That's how I work best. Now, my style might be slower. I'm bigger, but like it might be slower than what people are more accustomed to. Like now, everyone's just so into spots. So when you have like a spot fest match, and it's like you got guys jump off the top rope and doing flips and everything like that, you know, you have to plan that because someone's going to get really injured if you don't. But when you're telling a story, and it's just like, you know, you're working the arm, for example, like you don't need to plan anything. It's like the story is I'm beating your arm up, so give me your arm at some point, and I'll do the rest. So I was in a tag match. And Ali, we didn't even plan the finish. We had a 20-minute tag match main event. This is in Australia. And we had a 20-minute tag match main event. We didn't plan the finish. We knew we were going over, but that was it. We didn't know how we're going over or anything like that. And then we went up to Ali, and he's like, we're like, what's the finish? He goes, don't worry about it. I'll tell you later. And like, as our music's playing, we still don't know what the finish is. Our music's playing, we're walking out, like we're in the aisle, like standing in the aisle, the people like booing us who were heels. And I said to him, like, Ali, what's the finish? And he goes, I'll tell you later. And like, that was the most surreal moment of my life because there was like 300-400 people in this building, and I didn't know anything. I couldn't tell you anything. And I'm standing in the ring, and Ali's calling the entire match from the apron, and I was so blown away by like everything he was saying. He's like, you know, like I would circle around, and then I'd come back to our corner and be like, okay, lock up, take his head. And I'm just like, okay. So I walk up, and I took his head. I was like, and everyone sort of makes a noise. I'm like, okay, like this is what we're doing. And then we work it in, and then, you know, like he was like, and then he'd tell the other guys, you know, like come up, fight back. And then the other guy would fight back, and he'd hit me, and people would start like cheering. And I couldn't believe that the people were reacting to this stuff. And like it was so amazing. And then I can't remember what the finish was. We went over, but because we were heels, he probably did a roll up like a schoolboy or whatever for the finish. But yeah, we went 20 minutes with nothing planned at all. And like I got to the back, I'm like, that was so much fun. That was when you have nothing planned, it is so much more fun. Because you have no expectations at all. You can't, like, what you don't know, you can't mess up.
Right.
So that was so cool. And then because I did that, that's how I started working from then on. You know, depending on who you're working with, like some guys, like they love planning spots and everything like that. But like I'd plan spots with them, and I plan like the major spots, and we'd go through them. But everyone that I ever worked with, like, they'd give me the feedback. It'd be like, you know, or they'd ever just talk to me, and they're like, you know, I could really tell you're much more comfortable in like those unplanned areas because it's like you can do whatever you want. And that's where I think the art is. Like that's where I genuinely think the art is like actually listening to the audience. It's like I've been in shows and like these guys, they're much better athletes than me, and like they're doing backflips and everything like that, and you know, they hit a moonsault and there'd be a double down, and the audience would be silent. It's like because they didn't buy the stuff prior, right? So
right.
When you can't pivot from what you've planned is the challenge for when you plan a lot of spots. It's like if the audience is not buying, if they're not reacting to what you're putting down, you have to move and you have to like change on the fly for like what you're doing. So having that ability to call it on the fly is like, you need it. You need to be able to do that. So Ali taught me how to do that, and that came into play here when I was in Toronto. We had a show. We're actually at a bar in a show at a Bart show, and So when you do a board show, the promotion sells like a block of time. So it's like, we'll sell you 4 hours or 2 hours of wrestling for X amount of dollars. And this one show, so I sold 2 hours of wrestling for X amount of dollars, and the first 4 matches, it was only a five match card, and the first 4 matches went very short. And we didn't know. We're in the main event, and I was wrestling Cody Deaner. And the promoter came around. Like, it was a pretty casual show. The promoter came around. We were in the ring. We've been wrestling for 15 minutes at the time. He said we had 20. We've been wrestling for like 10, 15 minutes at the time. The promoter came around, grabbed me on the ankle, and he goes, "We need you to go another 45." And I'm like, what? And I didn't know I could do this at this point either, because the only time I've ever done full on call was with Ali. He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "We need you to go another 45." And I told Cody, and then Cody looked after me, of course. Like he's a real vet. But he looked after me, and we went another 45 minutes unplanned. Like, it was awesome. So having that ability to call it in the ring is key, in my opinion, to being able to work. And you'll see the difference as well. If you ever go to a WWE, like Monday Night Raw, or like a Monday Night Raw versus like a house show, like, you see the difference in the work.
Oh, yeah.
The house shows are slower because they don't plan it. But the house shows are more fun because it's a planned. It's like they're telling stories, and like it's more funny and whatever it is. So, but yeah, I totally get you need to plan like TV. TV is very expensive. You can't waste time with guys trying to figure out what they need to do. So of course you have to plan that. But yeah, it's back to the point of the story. I think you need to know how to work, like actually work, where you call stuff on the fly and just make it up, because that's the most impactful stuff, is when you're reacting to the fans.
Oh, another really cool thing you've done was you actually played Bart Gun on Darkside of the Ring.
I did.
Can you tell us about how that came about and that experience?
Yeah, so Darkside of the Ring is actually filmed up here in Canada. And I got a message from one of the boys. He said, "Hey, I just wrapped up the first episode of Darkside of the Ring. This is season 1. But the next episode they're doing is the Bart Gun, the Brawl for All. Yeah, and they want you to. They're looking for a Bart Gun, and we think you'd be good. They think you'd be good." So I went into the Vice Studios, and this is insane to me as well. It's like, remember back, like, I only want to touch a wrestling ring, and now I'm talking to like Vice about doing Darkside of the Ring. So I went into Vice and started talking to the guys, and like, yeah, like, we want you to do Bart. So I'm like, okay, cool. And I obviously knew Brawl for All very well. It was the famous disaster. So
right.
And they're like, the only thing we want you to be able to do is like the fall. Like, when Bart Gun gets knocked out, we want you to do that. I'm like, I got it. Like, I know exactly what you want. I can do it. So I had a beard, so like I shaved the beard off, and then there was another big guy who was Billy Bean. What's his name?
Billy Gunn?
No. What's his name? Butterbean. Sorry.
Butterbean. Okay.
Yeah, Butterbean. Yeah. So so then we're in makeup, and they do us up. They put wigs on us. I had long hair, so tied that back, put a wig on, made it into a mullet, Butterbean, and everything like that. So we get the ring in, and it was cool. It was like, I'd done some acting things prior. Like, I went to acting school and everything like that. Like, in Australia, like, I got a scholarship to an acting school. That was something I missed, but yeah, I went to acting school. So, but this was my first experience at like a proper production, and they were long days, man. They were long days. They were like 18 hours. It was like an 18-hour day for this episode.
Really?
So 3 18-hour days, and it's just in like some warehouse in Toronto somewhere, and they put a wrestling ring in there. They got the smoke machine in there. You know, they did the episode with what's his name? the guy from Montreal that got shot by the mafia for the cigarettes. What's his name?
What? Oh my God.
Not. I keep wanting to say Don Morocco. It wasn't Don Morocco. It was the other guy. The French guy.
Not. Why am I thinking Pedro Morales? No.
No, it wasn't Pedro Morales. Anyway, the French guy, the French Canadian guy. So they did the episode, and that was brutal because it was snowing, and it was snowing inside, but it was just like these chemical, snowflakes, and like we were standing in there watching it shooting, and you couldn't breathe. Like the cameramen were wearing like respirators and everything like that because these snowflakes was just like killing you. Like, so we were outside. We had to go outside because you'd be inside for like 5 minutes and you just start coughing, just uncontrollably coughing. So all those episodes were being filmed, and Rob Rage, he was another wrestler. He recently passed away a couple of years ago of a heart attack. He actually wrestled a match, and then he had a heart attack backstage after it. So he was a great guy, Rob. But he always played Hogan, and they had me in as Bart. But yeah, that was my first experience as like an actual production and like directors and producers and all that type of thing. So it was awesome, but it was like just seeing the whole process behind the scenes of like how those things are actually shot, and you know, in Darkside of the Ring, they you obviously see it's all slow motion silhouettes, but like, so I've obviously seen the first episode, and we're filming my episode, and like okay, now throw a punch, and like I'm an idiot, I'm throwing the punch in slow motion because I've seen the show. Thinking that I had to throw the punch in slow motion, like, what are you doing? Like, just throw the punch. We'll slow it down in like post production. So that was very funny. They all had a good laugh out of that. But yeah, like we went through all that, and it was awesome. Like it was a really good experience. There's a lot of good guys who did it. It was cool hanging out with some different people that I never hung out with before. There, unfortunately, a couple of people had passed away since they were young, but. One guy had cancer, and he ended up passing away. And then Rob Rage, like I said, he passed away in the back, like after a match, had a heart attack. But yeah, like it was an awesome experience. They actually reached out to me 2 weeks ago, actually, to do another series to play someone. I can't remember the guy's name who they wanted me to play, but essentially it was like this big European guy. And they wanted me to like, can you shave your head bald for this? I'm just like, no, like no, I'm not shaving my head bald. So I
shaved the beard. That's fine. The hair, no.
Yeah, I'll do the beard, but I'm not doing the hair. So, yeah, like I love that stuff. Like all my life, I just wanted to be an entertainer. Even in my current job, like my actual job, like my real life job. I love being an entertainer with it. Like I always try to like pop everyone, make them laugh. So that's what I love doing. So anytime I get an opportunity that and it works by the schedule, I'll always take it up. Like it's the best.
And the wrestler's name we were blanking on was Dino Bravo.
Dino Bravo, yes.
Yes.
Dino Bravo. Yeah.
No,
So Dino Bravo unfortunately got murdered in the snow in Montreal.
Yes.
By the mafia.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
You know, we've been talking about Cadman this whole time. Could you tell us about Definitely Not Cadman?
So how do you mean? Like, what do I do in my real time? In my real life?
No, there was a match that you had, and it was Definitely Not Cadman. Was how you were billed.
Was that the one where I wore a mask? I think I wore a mask in that one.
Yes.
Yeah. So I can't remember the storyline of it, but I from memory, I think I did something dastardly, and I ended up getting fired or something like that from the promotion. And we ended up just ripping off like Captain America with Hulk Hogan. So they ended up putting a mask on me, and it was just obviously clearly me. I had the exact same gear. I looked the exact same. All of a sudden, I was wearing a mask. So So yeah, that was good fun. Wearing a mask in wrestling is so difficult. If you've never done it, like you can't hear properly because the mask is on your ears. Like the fabric's only thin, but like it muffles everything because like you walk around, you hear yourself breathing. Like for those people who played football, like you would know, you'd understand. Like when you're out of breath and you hear yourself like breathing, it's so loud in the helmet. It's the exact same thing in a mask. Like you just hear yourself breathing, so it makes it. Then all of a sudden, it makes it very difficult to hear the other guy calling things to you or talking to you. So you don't hear that. And then the vision as well, like seeing stuff. Like you can have the eye holes really open, like a Rey Mysterio, for example. But even then, it's like your vision's still impaired. So, funny story about Rey Mysterio, actually. I was an extra one time at SummerSlam weekend in 2019. They were here in Toronto, and I ended up doing the extra work there. And we were in catering, and it's very humbling. It's very humbling going there because it's just like, you know, like I said before, like Triple H is my hero. Like I loved him. And I ended up like working at a segment with Triple H. Like I was involved in the NXT takeover show. I was in Mia Yim's entrance, and we were going over the rehearsals. And between you and me, like I was taking a bit of extra substance to get bigger. So Triple H, he comes up and he grabs me on the arms, and Triple H is my hero. I was taller than him by a long way, which was very shocking. So he was obviously wearing lifts in his day. But he grabs me in the arms and he's like, "My God, you are huge." It's like, yes, like I couldn't believe I'd made it at that point. Like whatever, like this is it. Like life can't get any higher at this point. So Triple H put me over. But yeah, anyway, I was backstage catering, and like you just realistically, when you're an extra, you really just try to stay out of the way. Like you don't want to step on anyone's toes. You don't want to do anything. So I'm in catering. We go over to catering, and we're sort of standing. There's me and like 2 or 3 other extras, and we're just sort of like scoping at the scene. Like we didn't want to go in there too, like if it was too full. Like, we didn't want to seem like we're just trying to like, you know, like interact with these guys. But anyway, we go up to the catering. We're looking around, and there's Ric Flair. Like the one person in the world that I would expect to be a dick was Ric Flair, and he was not. Like he was so nice to us. He goes, "Hey," he's like, "I know you're extras, but come in, like you're more than welcome." Like he shook my hand. He's like, "You are welcome here. Like just please make yourself at home." I was like, "This is incredible." Like Ric Flair is like telling me this stuff. So anyway, we get some food, we sit down, we eat, and we go take our plates back over to like, you know how they have those bins there where you put your plates in. So we go do that, and I just turn around and just walk off, and I just walk into a person. I just walk into literally step on their toes and like front them, like my chest just like hits their face, and I'm like, "Oh, like I'm so sorry," and then I look and like this guy looks so familiar. It was like this Spanish looking guy, and I'm like, "Hang on a minute, like that's Rey Mysterio." So I've nearly like given a shoulder tackle to Rey Mysterio in catering, and he's nearly taken a bump on the floor, and I had no clue. And like it's so funny, like when you're growing up watching Rey, obviously you know what Rey looks like. I know what Rey looks like in real life. You can just Google it and you obviously know what he looks like. But you're just so accustomed to knowing Rey in the mask. Like I literally nearly gave him a shoulder tackle in catering. he nearly fell over. So I once I did that, I ran. I'm like, I got to get out of here. Like I got to go hide. But then like another thing about Rey is like, we're just standing in the hallway. It was so fascinating when we're doing these extra spots. It's like they give you so much freedom. Like I thought it was like, okay, like because I'm assuming like over the course of the years, like there's extras. Like surely there's been one extra that sort of ruined it. You know, like they've gone a little bit crazy and just taken some liberties. But we're standing in the hallway. You know those shots where it's just like the talent is walking out. It's like, you know, up next it's Rey Mysterio versus Batista or whatever.
Right.
And they're walking down the hallway. So we're just standing in the hallway, and Rey Mysterio's rehearsing. Like his match is up next, and he's rehearsing his walk down the hallway at Scotiabank Arena here in Toronto. And he's got his mask like sitting on top of his head, so it's not over his face, but it's sitting over the top of his head. And he's rehearsing it. I'm like, obviously that's Rey, but like it doesn't look like Rey because he hasn't got his mask on. And then you hear him count like 3, 2, 1. He pulls his mask down. He walks. It's like holy shit! Like all of a sudden, he just turns into Rey Mysterio. So like that side of things. And like there was a promo with Kobe Kingston and Big E of the New Day, and like we're like 1 foot off camera, just like watching all this stuff. So we were told no photos backstage, but allegedly I may have a photo standing at the front of Vince's office with the sign behind me.
Allegedly.
So allegedly, a bit of a Dino Bravo situation is alleged.
Right. All right. Now, can you tell us about cooking with Cadman?
That was during COVID. I enjoy cooking, and I was very bored. And like I said, I go a bit of an entertainer. I like to try. More importantly, I come up with things myself to like keep me entertained. Like people might not watch it. I don't care. Like I enjoy doing it. I like editing the videos. But yeah, during COVID, I started like doing this like little cooking show, and I would sort of allude to the fact that it was like some sort of fancy dinner, but it was just like an old El Paso taco kit, and I'd make them. So I would try to do them, especially during COVID. I would try to do that a lot. Like I said, just to keep me entertained, and hopefully someone would watch it. I ended up getting a few views out of it, but like, I definitely don't have a cooking show coming up anytime soon. But yeah, it was just a bit of fun that I could keep myself entertained. I really like cooking. Cooking, in my opinion, I think cooking is like an art form. Being able to like, how they know how to like compile those ingredients into one thing and actually, make a meal out of it and make it taste amazing. Like that's where I think the art is. So I really do enjoy cooking. But the cooking with Cadman thing, that was just some fun to keep me entertained.
Will we see it make a return?
You never know. You never know. If there's another pandemic, I might. I really like. I'm showing my age now. Sort of like the mid-30s. The mid-30s male sort of gets into like smoking meat. So I really enjoy smoking meat. So you never know. I might make a barbecue show. Who knows?
Sounds delicious.
Yeah, I really got into cooking, smoking meat during COVID as well. I got myself a little smoker out of the back, so you never know, that might become a thing.
I think it's time for Cadman's Bizarre Adventure. You're a pro wrestler that goes up and down the roads, and weird, crazy, and bizarre things are bound to happen. Can you tell us a road story that fits that description?
A rose, sorry. One time, we were actually there's a town called North Bay. It's 3 hours from where I'm at now. And the further in Canada, the further north you go, the more snow there is. And it was like January, February, and the show was on. So we're in the car, we're driving along, and, all of a sudden, we're drinking water and drinking energy drinks and stuff like that to stay awake. All of a sudden, nature calls, right? So we have to pull over. And once again, we're like 2.5 hours from civilization at this point, like in the middle of the woods. And there's a lot of snow. So we get out. One guy starts taking a leak behind the car. The other guy starts taking a leak in front of the car. And I go out and then just walk out into like the ditch sort of thing, like to start doing what I got to do. And turns out this ditch was like 7 foot deep.
Ooh.
It was full of snow. So I ended up just like going down and just like sliding off the edge. And I'm 6'5", but the snow was like fully covered in, like went over my head. So everyone got a very good laugh out of that. But like we ended up having to dig me out of the snow. I didn't get injured or anything like that, but that was pretty funny. Having to like fall down a snowbank that was like 7 foot deep, like into a hole. And obviously once you're in the hole, like snow goes down your clothes, down your pants, everything like that. So it's like now all of a sudden you're freaking cold. So yeah, those winter stories, doing those road trips in the winter, they're brutal. Like they're brutal. Like I'm sure you've heard the stories of like Edge and Christian doing those like winter death tours.
Oh yeah.
They're legit. Like they still do them now. The same company that Edge and Christian do it with, they still run them. they asked me to do them one time, but they were like, it's 12 weeks long. Like, we're in the middle of nowhere. You got to sleep in the ring or the ring truck, and it's minus 45 every day. I passed up on that opportunity. The idea of driving a ring truck across a frozen lake is not appealing to me.
Oh no, I get that, and I've interviewed quite a few people that have been on those step tours, and they are the real deal.
Yeah, man, like it's crazy. It's like, and most of the time these trucks are like 30 years old.
Right.
So it's like the heating system's not good anyway, and you've got like 6 guys piled into this truck. And then you get to some reserve, like, who knows where? Like, honestly, who knows where you are? You could be 12 hours from, like, anywhere. And, like, you just got to set up the ring, and then you're in some, like, high school gym, and you're sleeping in the ring. And if I was single, not a father, I think that would be very appealing and younger. Like, if I was 21, 22, and they said, do you want to do this death tour? Yes. Like, hands down, yes. But nowadays, I'm pretty accustomed to a warm bed,
Right. Another name that comes up when looking you up, and that is a one Carlito Caribbean Cool.
Yes.
You competed against him. What was that experience like?
So this was my first experience ever at a real crowd, like at a proper wrestling crowd. It was like, this was in Melbourne. It was OVW, OCW, sorry, I should say, Outback Championship Wrestling in Australia. The promoter's my good friend. He lives in Cleveland now. But they did it so well. Like, it's like, yeah, they relied on names, and they brought names in, and obviously they had an expensive budget. But being in Australia, wrestling's not popular because you got like things like Australian rules football, you got cricket, you got rugby, everything like that. So those things take priority in Australia. To draw a crowd to wrestling, like an actual crowd to wrestling, you need a name to draw a house. So they understood that. They had good production, and then they did their super shows. So their super shows were like, they'd bring in a ton of guys, like, and there were surprises. Like, they wouldn't even advertise them. Like, this show that I wrestled Carlito on, he was a surprise. They also had Gangrel on that same show, and he was also a surprise. So they had a bunch of things. Like Drew McIntyre, like, he was there, and like, he won the championship and everything like that. So like, it was such a good experience being around those people, and getting feedback from them. Like, this is sort of like, well, I've known Tommy Dreamer now for like 8 years now, but that one show in particular where I wrestled Carlito was very important because he taught me a lot of things just in that one thing, and MVP was there as well. But like I was saying, that was my first time wrestling in front of like an actual show, like in front of an actual crowd. I'd done 400 people, but this one was like 1,200 people in this room, and I came out first. I was a bad guy, and it was like, had a mystery opponent, and it was Carlito. So I'm in the ring, 1,200 people, and I'm standing in the ring, and I'll never forget the feeling of when his music. So I can't imagine what it must feel like for these guys at WrestleMania when there's 80,000 people, 100,000 people at these shows. Because when the sound is direct, I was in the ring and I heard the sound and I felt the sound, but I couldn't imagine what it felt like if it was directed at you. But like I said, I was in the middle of the ring, Carlito's music hit, and the noise of 1,200 people was so deafening, and the way I describe it is like, it sucks the life out of you. It sucks the energy from you because there's so much adrenaline. Like, it's this huge adrenaline dump, and like, I felt like I just feel his energy coming out of me, like when everyone was screaming for his music. Like, and I wasn't like crying. Like, I wasn't crying, but like, I got emotional. Like, I was so excited and like so fired up for what we're about to do because I knew it was cool. And once again, like, Carlito was like, he was sort of like in my prime of like wrestling fandom. spitting the apple and everyone.
Right.
And I knew the apple was coming. So I was just so fired up to get to the end so I could get the apple, because I knew the noise. After I heard his entrance, like what the noise was like there. I knew what the noise was going to be like for the apple. So once we got to the apple, we did the finish, and then that was actually my last match in Australia for a long time. So Carlito beat me, and then I ended up getting on the microphone that night, and Tommy Dreamer told me to say, he's like, say you're the biggest, baddest person here, and if I'm demanding another match, and if I lose, then I'll leave Australia. I won't wrestle in Australia for 2 years. So obviously, the next biggest guy came out. It was Mark Silver. So for those who don't know Mark Silver's probably like 6'2", 350, like jacked. Like he's like a gorilla. Like he's just so jacked. And then that was also amazing, because it's like he beat me and I lost and I had to leave. But because the best thing about wrestling is everyone knows what's going to happen. Like without them knowing the finish, they don't know anything. They knew he was going to beat me. And they were into it. They were willing to give themselves up for that fact that they knew that he was going to beat me, because I was being a dick, and they wanted me to lose. And then when I did lose, like it was just so satisfying. I remember just laying there like, this is amazing. Like, and then they're all singing like that na 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 song. And from that match that I had, it turns out the match sucked, but because Mark Silver, he was pretty green himself. I'd been doing it for like 3 years at that point, 3 or 4 years. And that's where that match that's where that advice from MVP and Tommy Dreamer came from, because they ended up wrestling that night as well. And they, like, this is how good they are. Like, this is, like, in wrestling, you hear these stories about people, I want to give back. Like, it's bullshit. Like, they don't care. They just say that for the interviews. These guys genuinely wanted to give back. And they actually planned spots in their match, and they told me to watch. They're like, watch our match and tell us. And after the match, we want you to tell me what you noticed. And they did my spots, but they did it better. And the reason why they did that was to show me how I was meant to do it. So MVP and Tommy Dreamer, I can't say enough good things about them. Like MVP, admittedly, I don't have too much interaction with MVP, but like Dreamer. Like they didn't have to do that. They could have just said like good match, and because we got a good reaction. But like they explained why. They explained why the match could have been better and why it was bad, or it wasn't bad, but like what we did was we should have done something else to what we did, and we would have got a better reaction. So they explained it like the way they explained it was in their own match. So it was so fascinating to see that. And like I said, I was heavily invested in the business at that time. Like I would have died for it. So I was so appreciative of those guys like doing that for me.
All right. Now I think it's time for the colossal question. Let's say they're making a movie about you. Every movie has a soundtrack. What would be the first 3 songs on your movie soundtrack?
It's a good question. One of my favorite songs ever is Rammstein. Like Rammstein. I think that's just such an amazing intro theme, like an intro sound. So I think that would be the first one. Did you want me to name 3? Did you say?
Yeah, Dre. I mean, you could
you
could mention more. I just limit it to Dre.
Yeah, sure. So Rammstein would be the number 1. Like it's just like, for those who haven't heard it, it's just like this marching beat, and like I think that's just unreal. Another one, like this is showing that I'm a wrestling fan. Limp Bizkit, like the first concert I ever went to was Limp Bizkit. So like Limp Bizkit, one of the Limp Bizkit songs, put anyone in there, like any Limp Bizkit song I love, like Break Stuff's awesome, My Way, anything like that, like I'm really into that. I'd have one of them in there, and then another one would be once again, Creed's come around. Creed's done like a 180 on their career. Like they've just sort of like blossomed out of nowhere again. But like my memory of Creed is wrestling. So most of my wrestling music, like most of my songs come from wrestling. So I just think of like My Sacrifice with Jeff Hardy, that clip of him wanting to get back in the ring from his injuries. So I'd probably have like Rammstein, Limp Bizkit, and like a Creed song in there. I think those would be my very polar opposite songs, but I think I'd have something like that, and you can really tell that I'm a wrestling fan by that choice.
Hey, I dig
You
it.
can tell I'm a wrestling fan from a late 90s, early 2000s.
That's exactly what I was going from, like 99 to like 2004.
Yeah, that's my peak, man. Like I'm into it.
Alright, now that we have the soundtrack down, everybody knows you get the soundtrack first, then you write the script, and then you go to casting. Who plays you, and you can't say yourself because you are obligated to make a Stan Lee-esque cameo.
Who plays me? Does it have to be a wrestler, or can it be an actor?
Actor, yeah.
Okay. Not that we look alike. Oh, we kind of look alike, sort of. He's better looking, but Chris Hemsworth because he's Australian.
All right, we're bringing out the big bucks for Hemsworth.
Yeah, obviously we're not doing any of these low budget films that I've done in the past.
Oh yeah, this is a big budget, unlimited budget. Everybody, no expenses, not unpaid.
I'd like to say The Rock, but I'm not Hawaiian. Samoan, sorry. I'm not Samoan.
Now that we have you casted, everybody knows that every movie has a supporting cast. Who would be 3 people significant to you and your story that would be in your movie, and who would play them?
Do they have to be actors, or can they be wrestlers?
You could however you'd like to answer the question.
Okay. Who would be a support? I'm going to put Dreamer in there.
Okay.
I'd do Dreamer as like, you know, in Rocky, his coach. I'd do Dreamer as the coach.
Okay.
Type of thing. I would like to do. Well, I can't remember his real name, but like the Chris Maltasani from Sopranos. What's the actor's name? Michael Impoli or something.
I think I know who you're talking about. Yes.
Chris Maltasani. So we'll just call him Chris Maltasani because I can't remember the real actor's name. So we'll call him that. That would be Santino.
Okay.
And then I would like. You might have to help me with this one. I would like an Arabic type actor.
Okay.
Because this would be Ali Vaez. So I would like an Arabic.
And the name of the actor from The Sopranos is Michael Imperioli?
Yes. I was close.
And I mean, okay, so kind of blanking on other actors.
Same here. Same as well. Well, let's find another one. Let's think of another one. I want to do. Will Ferrell.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll do Will Ferrell. He could be another coach. I think he'd be a very funny coach.
I mean, he doesn't exactly look like Santino Marella, but I don't think he'd mind.
No, we'll fabricate that truth.
Exactly. Right. We have so you're 3 coaches, correct?
Yes.
All right, and we're leaving one of them up to casting.
Sorry, what was that?
We're leaving one of the actors for casting.
So who would be the one casting?
No, because you said that we were blanking on actors for your one coach, so we'll leave it up for somebody else to cast it.
Yeah, we will. Yeah.
Right. It's sounding like a great movie, a blockbuster to say the least, and you could pre-order the tickets now.
That's right.
Now onto a controversial subject. Pineapple on pizza. What's your stance?
I'm in. I'm a fan of pineapple on pizza. So in Australia, when you're in Australia, they do pizza pizza's very wrong in Australia. It's since moving in North America, they do it more traditional. It's just one topping, cheese and whatever. So that's more traditional. But in Australia, they do it very wrong. But I love it. It's so good. There's 8 toppings on these things. They're just overflowing with stuff. But the Hawaiian in Australia is very, very good. It's just a mountain of shredded ham, with cheese and pineapple on it. I'm all for it.
All right, so pro pineapple on pizza.
Yes.
What's your spirit Pokemon?
My spirit Pokemon. Pikachu.
Okay. Now, we love the late great Tracy Smothers on the show. Do you know the acronym for Doug? THUG.
I don't. Can you enlighten me?
T is for terrible, H is for hell, U is for ugly, and G is for Jill, 'cause a Doug can't spell. Now, yes, we love the late great Tracy Smothers, trying to keep the memory alive on the show. Now, weirdest question you'll be asked on a wrestling interview, hopefully. Would you ever consider wrestling a rock? Not Dwayne Johnson, not the country, an actual physical rock.
Well, if the pay's correct, then I'll wrestle anyone.
Alright. Well, just for context, there's a wrestler named Psycho Mike that indeed wrestled a rock for over 15 minutes in a Tungsten Man match. That's an Arn Man match that lasts for 2 weeks.
I know Mike. I know Mike well. He's a crazy man.
So you know that it's not out of the realm of possibilities for him.
Anything to do with Mike is not out of the realm of possibility.
Yes. I mean, he literally wrestled himself one time.
Yeah, he's an interesting character. Mike's a good guy, but he's certainly he's out there.
Right. On a more serious note, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Where do I see myself in 5 years? I've started jiu-jitsu training, so I'm trying to keep active. I'm in the gym still all the time. I just want to keep having fun. I love wrestling, as long as it's fun. So, in the next 5 years, if the WWE calls and yeah, we got a contract for you, sure, I'll definitely entertain the idea. But if they don't, and I only ever keep wrestling 5-6 matches a year, then I'm also good with that. As I said earlier on in our conversation, I had a great run. I achieved more than a lot of people in the wrestling business. I just want to keep having fun and enjoy myself. Nowadays, I'm at the point where I don't do, as I said, I don't do shows just because I want to do the show anymore. I want to do shows with my friends. So as long as I'm doing shows with my friends and like I'm having a good time and having a laugh, then I'm more than happy with that.
Is there a match people should go out of their way to see that you'd like them to see that best shows off what you are all about as a pro wrestler?
There's one match online on YouTube. I did a street fight in Melbourne, in Australia. That's a good match to watch. Like I hit a guy over the head with a guitar. I fall through a table off the top rope to the floor. I love that stuff. Like I love it. Like it's so cool. It's I love putting your body on the line. The fans appreciate it. That's one match. That if you ever want to go, you go find the Mighty Cadman in a street fight on YouTube.
Who was you wrestling in that match?
I was wrestling Ali.
Okay. And if it is,
what's his name?
Oh.
I'm just trying to find him out. Let me find it. I can send it to you later. I just can't find it right now.
absolutely. And I will look for it as well. I will put the link to it in the description of the video below, but on YouTube and Castbox for anybody that hasn't seen it, wants to see it, wants to re-see it after this interview.
Yep.
And since we are nearing the conclusion of this interview, we are wrestling with the 8 questions of doom. This is our speed round, our bonus round, the round where we see who you really are. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Excluding yourself, greatest wrestler of all time.
Austin.
Worst wrestler.
Worst wrestler. There's some wrestlers on the indies, man, that you don't want to see. TV wrestler, worst wrestler, let's just say... This is hard. I'm drawing a blank.
Would you like the default answer?
Yes, default.
You have chosen Eva Marie.
It's very good. That's a great answer.
You're main eventing WrestleMania for the World Championship. Who is your opponent?
Is this on a personal level or like what?
However you'd like to answer it. Whoever.
Gotta be Austin, because I want that pop. I want to hear that pop. I want to hear that glass shatter. That's what I'm in for.
If you could come out to anyone's entrance music, past or present, who would it be?
Oh, come on. Come on, it's got to be Austin, like glass. It's everything. Triple H is my favorite, but Austin's the best.
The original Austin or the disturbed version?
Original. I hate the disturbed version.
Fair enough.
I'm not a fan of it. I know guys that love the disturbed version. I'm not into it. I would also say Hogan. I could also say Hogan. Like Hogan at WrestleMania 18 when he wrestled The Rock. If he had to come out to in the red and yellow to I'm a Real American, that would have made it 1,000,000 times better.
Oh yeah.
That could have been a possibility. So it'd be either Austin or Hogan.
Finish the sentence. Kayfabe is.
Kayfabe should be alive and well, but it's not.
We would have also accepted tastes great on toast. Squash, vegetable or fruit?
Does it have seeds? I can't remember. It has seeds, right?
That may give away the answer. So I will
if
not.
It has seeds, so it's a fruit.
That is the correct answer. New Japan wrestler Taichi, his ring gear gets smaller every year, revealing more of himself to the world. My question, what is the appropriate trunks to butt cheek ratio for ring gear?
You're talking about like inch coverage?
Yes.
I'm taking a guess. 17?
So 17% showing?
Oh, I was saying 17% would be like 17 inches would be the length of the trunk. So I would say I think a trunk should go on a male. A trunk should not exceed the cheek.
Okay, so full coverage.
I would say on a male. On a female, they can have more because that's what people want to see. But on a male, I think we want full coverage.
And the last question, the main event, the thing everybody wants to know. Have you ever had a conversation with a stranger in a supermarket about Darby Allin?
I have not. No, I have not. Is that common?
No, and that's why it is a question on this interview.
Okay, good. Yeah, because I've never had that conversation.
And that's the correct answer. And that
Man, Arby Dallin, Arby's willing to die. He does everything.
That he does. That will conclude this interview. Thank you so much for coming on and doing this with me.
No worries. Thank you for having me. I've enjoyed talking about this. It's brought up some good memories. I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. And once again, where can we find you on social media and your merchandise?
Yeah, my name is the Mighty Cadman on all platforms. You can find me there. Like I said, I don't have a merchandise store right now. When I get more current merch, I'll definitely be able to announce that. But my social media is at the Mighty Cadman on Facebook, Twitter or X, and Instagram.
And you don't even have to type it into your Google machine. All of the links to all his social media will be in the description of the video below, but on YouTube and Castbox, simply click the link. A new tab will appear on whatever device you are on. You have no excuse. Give him a damn follow, and when he gets some shirts in, buy a damn shirt.
Yes, please do.
Of course, thank you for listening. If you like what we're doing, please like, subscribe, comment, but on YouTube and Castbox. This was sponsored by Rogue Energy and Player One Coffee. Join us on Thursday as we interview John Scrutch. On the 30th, Misty Marks, 31st, Ramona, the 1st, Merrick Brave, the 7th, Nigel San Jose, and on the 8th, Roxy. So, Wrestling with looking up, have a lot of good interviews coming up in the month of January and the end of December as well. And you can follow the show at Wrestling with E, both on X, Thread, and Instagram for information on who we're interviewing, when we're interviewing them, links to those interviews, and so much more. Follow me personally at JamesJ993. Alright, when I say Wrestling with, you say entertainment, okay?
Mm-hmm.
For our special guest, the Mighty Cadman, Kaliko Yacht, Scooter Dust, I am James J, and this has been Wrestling with
Entertainment.
Hey folks, this is the Colossal Mike Law, and you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment. Enjoy the show, support these guys. We appreciate it very much. We'll see you at ringside.